Call to order the Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, November 17th, 2022. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Crowell, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Knobloch,
Here.
Commissioner Heikkila,
Here.
Commissioner Bradley,
Here.
Chair Schwartz,
Here.
Commissioner Casey,
Here.
Commissioner Schmolke,
Here.
and Commissioner Geisler.
Here. Thank you. Our first order of business is to adopt our agenda.
Chair Schwartz,
Commissioner Knobloch.
I propose we adopt the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Second.
Motion by Knobloch, second by Heikkila. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And the agenda is adopted. Next, we have the approval of the minutes of our October 20th meeting.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Heikkila.
I move we approve the minutes from the October 20th, 2022
I'll second
Planning
that.
Commission meeting.
Motion by Heikkila, second by Knobloch. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And the minutes are approved. Our first order of business this evening is planning case 22-24, a site plan for Silverstar Car Wash at 2085 Northdale Boulevard Northwest. Silverstar Car Wash. Mr. Crow.
All right, so good evening, everyone. Our first item on the agenda is planning case 22-24. Here, the applicant is requesting site plan approval for a new car wash facility, and this is a redevelopment of a former restaurant site. So this is located at 2085 Northdale Boulevard. Just to orient ourselves a little bit, the parcel is kind of outlined in that magenta color, kind of near the intersection of Northdale Boulevard and Hanson Boulevard. The site is currently zoned community commercial, which a car wash is a permitted use. And then the future land use designation is commercial. So here again, the applicant's proposing a new 4,870 square foot car wash facility on an approximately 2.9 acre site. That was home to a former restaurant that's been since been demolished. As we'll see in kind of the plans in the presentation, the car wash is going to be located on the eastern half of the site, and the applicant has proposed to eventually subdivide the lot to allow another commercial development on the western half. So just want to make a note that this application is just for the site plan review of the car wash facility, and that any site plan approval tonight doesn't legally subdivide the lot. And so a subdivision, as you're aware, would require a separate application with a recommendation by the Planning Commission and then approval by the City Council. And here's just an image that was provided by the applicant, kind of showing the site beforehand, so the kind of former restaurant in the middle of the site. And as we'll see in their proposal for a future commercial development, the main concern from staff was that there is a 30-foot utility easement that does kind of separate this lot, and so you wouldn't be able to have a permanent structure like a building over that easement. And so we wanted just to make sure to work with the applicant as part of this site plan review, that they could show a building could fit and meet the setbacks and wouldn't be located over that utility easement. And we'll see that later in the presentation. So looking at the site plan provided by the applicant, they are showing about 7 parking spaces and 18 vacuum cleaner stalls. Our current code doesn't actually have a parking minimum for a car wash facility, and so in this case, they're exceeding the minimum, I guess, or there isn't a minimum. The parking that's kind of shown in this northeastern part of the lot is really intended for employees, and then there's accessible parking and a few parking spaces kind of oriented for customers to access. There is a kind of lobby cashier area that individuals can enter. Just note that they show a trash enclosure that meets our standards in terms of the kind of the 3 sides of similar materials and a gate. Just north of the building, they are proposing a stormwater kind of pond here to the south of the building, you'll see they're proposing kind of an access road or driveway that's really meant to provide access for any kind of future development on the western half of the site. They do show a pylon sign, and again, our signs require separate permit applications and separate approvals by staff. But just here, they are showing it on the plan. When I had looked at, it appears that the pylon sign might need to be moved about 5 feet to the west just to meet setbacks. But again, we would verify that and can work with the applicant when they apply for their sign permits. I tried to show a little bit kind of a general circulation of the site. So people would enter off of the existing driveway and signal on Northdale Boulevard with I think the intent of heading north through the site, kind of behind the building where the payment kiosks would be, and then one at a time entering the car wash and exiting, which at that point they could then exit to any of the nearby lots, head out on Northdale, or kind of turn into the vacuum cleaner area to clean out their car. One other piece that I'll note with this car wash, they do kind of show this small mat cleaning service area, and so I believe working with the applicant that the idea there is people can park their cars and then kind of walk their car mats to this area to clean their vehicle mats. We'll see on the elevations propose kind of a garage overhead door, and my understanding was that in the summertime, the idea is to kind of have that open to let a breeze and stuff through. Otherwise, there is a side door there that folks would access to drop off and clean their car mats. One other thing I guess I'll note with the drive-through stacking, our code would require at least room for 6 stacking spaces per wash bay. As you can see here, I measured the stacking area to be about 36 feet by 120 feet. The site plan is showing easily that 12 cars are here, and I think you could probably get, another 3 or 6 back here at some point. So I don't think staff really had any concern around the vehicle stacking on site, but there were some additional items kind of with the future development that I'll talk about. Here's their proposed landscape plan, and again showing kind of proposing 6 trees and 55 shrubs in this frontage area of the site, and then 9 overstory trees, 17 ornamental trees, 9 evergreen trees, and 94 shrubs kind of elsewhere on the site and around the stormwater pond. This does meet our landscaping minimums from the sense that it's kind of where they're showing that proposed future lot split. If you take the measurements of that lot, it meets the minimum, which staff were okay with, given we wouldn't want them to plant a bunch of landscaping that might then have to be torn up, in a year or two when the other half of the site would develop. And so I think if this were to go through a future subdivision, what they're showing here would meet the minimum for that lot. This was a floor plan that was provided just to kind of give you a little bit of a layout. So this building is reverse from the site plan that you saw. So Northdale Boulevard here is kind of to the north of this, and US 10, and where the vehicle stacking is kind of to the south of this image. Just to show you some employee entrance into the different storage and mechanical rooms, and then that kind of public lobby cashier area for customers. And then the tunnel of where the vehicles are going through the wash facility, and again, that kind of mat cleaning area towards the front of the building there along Northdale Boulevard. Looking at their building materials, they're showing a mix of kind of smooth concrete panel of a mix of different colors, so kind of a darker gray, a lighter gray, and a red. And then they have a textured panel. And so there are some color samples that were provided by the applicant there that you can kind of pass around just to help give you an idea of kind of the color scheme of the building. Let's see. I think kind of based on the mix of the 3 colors and the 2 different textures that they're showing, in addition to some of the prefab aluminum that they're kind of showing on the roof parapets, we felt like it met our development guideline on different materials and colors. I guess I'll also note here on the south elevation that would face Northdale Boulevard, it is set back from Northdale as well, and you would have kind of those 2 rows of landscaping as well as the vacuum cleaners that I think would screen the building pretty nicely from Northdale as well. This is the north elevation. Again, this is what would kind of face Highway 10, or where the vehicles would be stacking behind the building. And then just showing the kind of tunnel entrance and exit of the facility, with the entrance there facing, which is now currently a Burger King, and then the exit of the car wash would face the Burger King, and the entrance would face any kind of future development on the western half of that site. This was an image provided by the applicant that just shows a recently completed project, and so I think this helps give an idea, again, of those kind of mix of colors and the mix of materials being provided. Here they're showing 2 payment kiosks on the site plan they're proposing here. There would be 3 payment kiosks, so that payment area would be a little bit wider than this image, but again, just kind of giving you an idea of the signage and the materials that this building would be composed of. This was another image provided, and I think it just helps kind of give an idea of what the vacuum cleaning area would be laid out as. So again, you can kind of see those there, and the different mixes of materials, the kind of tunnel entrance, that kind of matte cleaning area here on the side that helps provide some differentiation on that facade, and then the taller roof parapets as well. Again, here was the lot split kind of proposal that I was showing, so it might be a little hard to see up on the screen there, but they are showing kind of a, just as a proposed layout, a smaller commercial building with a drive-through that would meet our building and parking setbacks, and again, wouldn't be located over that utility easement, which I think is the bigger concern on that western half of the site. And again, I'll just make a note that this application is just for the site plan review of the car wash facility, and that the approval of this site plan doesn't legally subdivide this lot. So if that's something the applicant is looking to do, they would need to submit a new application for a lot split. I did want to just take a moment to kind of walk through some of the different site plan standards where I kind of noted a condition was needed, just to provide some additional context. So the first one is just site plan criteria C, achieve a safe and efficient circulation system. I think as staff, we were maybe kind of thinking a little bit more about what you see on the site plan around the aesthetic and pavement management of the frontage road, and then the parking lot kind of just has a little driveway that would open into the vacant lot. And so just with that unfinished driveway edge and private road, staff, we couldn't really necessarily identify a solution right now that could work. So we kind of just added a condition that the applicant would work with staff, and we can figure out a solution there on those pavement edges, whether it's maybe some kind of temporary asphalt curbing that could work with some temporary erosion control that I'll mention next. Some kind of curbing to close it off, or figuring out something. So just kind of working with staff on how we could maybe resolve that issue on the difference there between the eastern and western half of the site. And here's just a map again, kind of showing that area I was talking about. So they currently show this open driveway that would just open up and onto the site, and I think maybe staff had some concern that maybe a vehicle would just try to drive through there without any kind of pavement connection. The second one was criteria D, not place excessive traffic loads on local streets. So for vehicles accessing this site, if you're heading eastbound on Northdale Boulevard, this existing driveway, if you're trying to get to the Burger King, the Speedway, or the small office building that's on the corner, this is the only driveway you can use to access the site. And the same goes if you're exiting the Burger King or Speedway and want to continue eastbound on Northdale to the Hanson intersection, you have to use this driveway as well. And so kind of given that and knowing that there could be future commercial development on the western portion that would also have to utilize that driveway, staff did request some trip generation data from the applicant, and that was shared with the Anoka County Highway Department, who oversees that signal there on Northdale. Again, that data was provided to the Anoka County Highway Department, and they had just requested that the applicant install a loop detector on that new service road, just to help ensure that traffic from the site and kind of the future development could be detected properly, and any signal adjustments could be determined accordingly, and assure that there was no excessive traffic loads on Northdale Boulevard. They didn't see any immediate concerns with the construction of Silverstar, but I think just knowing kind of the future development on that site, wanting to at least kind of do something there to continue to monitor that signal. So here again, you'll see a condition that the applicant install a traffic loop detector on the service road, ensure traffic is being detected by the existing signal on Northdale Boulevard, and ensure excessive traffic loads aren't placed on the street. So here again, just kind of highlighting that kind of service road where the loop detector should be placed to help with that signal here at the intersection. And then I believe this is the last one. I'll just note around preserving existing natural features, and then ensuring sufficient landscaping to help with enhancing the image of the development. There wasn't a clear timeline as to when the western half of the site would be developed, or if a future lot split would be applied for. And so erosion and other undesirable features could become an issue if that site is left undeveloped for some time. And so working with the city engineering staff, they had recommended that some temporary erosion control measures like hydroseeding or things could help preserve existing natural features and just help with the image of that development as it remains undeveloped. And so here you'll see a condition that the applicant provide temporary erosion control measures when necessary on the western half of the site to preserve natural features and enhance the image of the site until it's developed. So again, here, just kind of showing that western half. So in planning case 22-24, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission approve the proposed site plan, again, with the conditions that are listed, and many of which I had just mentioned. So I'm happy to help answer any questions, and I believe we have representatives from the application that are also here to help address any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Kroll. Commissioner, any questions for Mr. Kroll?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Geisler?
Mr. Kroll, so thinking about two pieces here for access agreements, since we know that that's a conversation around right now. The Burger King, as you mentioned, the Burger King, the Speedway, and that office complex need access to this site in order to head east on Northdale. So do we have to should access agreements be part of this to ensure that all three of those sites can work together?
Yeah, I'm not sure actually, because I think when I saw the where their property lines are, I actually think this small portion of the intersection is actually not part of their lot.
I guess.
But yeah, I guess I'm not sure. Yeah, if the what kind of potential access agreements we might need. I don't know, Blair or Grant, if you have any ideas.
I'm assuming
Yeah.
it's not a problem considering the other Anoka County comment, but the
Yeah.
other question then becomes, would we, if we needed a site or a shared access agreement with the future lot split, that would come at when and if we split the lot?
Yep, yeah, those would be covered there. And yeah, I think, yeah, Anoka County didn't flag anything with me when I spoke to them about the project, and I think just because this property line is kind of outside of that intersection, I think we might be okay.
Yeah, I guess I'm looking at the material from our packet, it shows the property line right up to the curb on Northdale.
Oh, sure,
So,
okay.
as a regular square.
Sure.
So the other question that I have then is, with the landscaping requirement, is staff comfortable not requiring landscaping if they don't pursue a lot split? Do we feel that the erosion control measures are strong enough, or is there should that condition be expanded to a point to say, if you don't pursue this, you need to bring the whole site up to landscape code? I don't know why they wouldn't pursue it, but, I mean,
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Geisler, I might just note, it's generally been our practice, if part of a development site is kind of undisturbed, we don't really consider that part of the site plan, or don't really consider it subject to the landscape standards. Actually, that other car wash, not too far from here, that was recently approved, there's a pad site, and it was kind of the same situation. In that case, it was smaller, but there was no landscape requirement triggered for that undisturbed area, and that would just come into play when a site plan came forward.
fair enough, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Casey?
So, Mr. Kroll, I had a question about that mat cleaning area.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of an addition onto the building. Is that a self-serve kind of facility, or when you talk about walking your mats over there?
Yeah, I think maybe the applicant can help
Oh.
with that question a little bit to better explain it, but my understanding was that it was more of a self-serve area, self-service area, but I think they probably could better speak to kind of how that
Yeah,
functions in the
does it have running
circulation.
water? Those are the
Yeah,
kinds of questions.
If I could, it's a.
We'll need you to come to the microphone.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're good.
Microphone, please.
Yeah.
And give your name and address for the record.
Yep, Jerry New, Houston Engineering, site designer. And the mat cleaning facility building room has a unit that's about the size of a large-scale plotter. And you actually take your mat and file it in like you would a piece of paper and a printer, and it cleans it up and it ejects underneath. So,
Okay.
yep. And feel free, they have a Instagram account if you wanted to look up Silverstar Car Wash, they show it there, right there too, so FYI.
So that would work for the normal flat type floor mats, but not for the molded mats?
Correct, that's my understanding, yeah, that's the way it appeared. I haven't seen one personally, I've seen them, people operating them, and yeah, not our fancy, our molded mats, I don't think are gonna work through those.
All right, thank you.
You bet.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Heickel?
if the gentleman would stand a little bit longer. So just to kind of understand how that mat thing works, you put $1 in or your credit card in, and
It's provided as free service
provided free.
For people with monthly, what would you call it? Subscription, yeah, there you go.
so your business does have a monthly subscription that you
Correct.
can purchase, and you get,
Yes.
like unlimited, or what?
Yes, that's what they promote, yep.
Okay, because I noticed also you had a cashier station inside.
Correct. And I'm not quite exactly sure how that works, but I know they have monthly subscriptions, and you can pay as you wash per wash.
So as you're driving up, you're not paying there. You need to go inside to pay first,
Well, there'll
or you
be,
pay on the way out.
Bart, do you know about this one? Yep.
So Bart Schultz with Houston Engineering. So how that works is we have so we have the kiosk where people can drive up if they just want a car wash and buy a car wash. And then they have everything, once they get the car wash, they can use the vacuums, and they can use the mat room for free, any patron going there. Or you can buy a monthly subscription where you can go unlimited times. So, but that's what the kiosk is for. Or if you have questions, if it's your first time in there and you have questions, they're there to, kind of direct you how it is. But it's very easy. Once you pull in, you have two people that will spray down your car, and then it goes through the tunnel, and as it comes out, there's blowers that dry off the car, and then you can choose to either leave if you don't want to, or you can go use the free vacuums. And you can walk over to use the mat if you so choose to do that.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Schmoke?
So the south elevation, that's the side that's gonna be facing Northdale, correct? South elevation? Are the windows, they look opaque on here, or they're gray, right? So can you describe what the windows are gonna be like? Are they clear, are they smoked, are they, you know, what type of window finishing is it? I'm just kind of looking at the side and seeing all this gray, and I just wondered if those are gonna be dressed up a bit, or what's the windows gonna be like?
Okay, so I'm not an architect, I'm the engineer here.
Sure.
So from my side, it is a smoked, it's not clear, like it's more of an architectural feature than,
Okay.
yeah, so it's,
And no signage on that side, it's just going to be on the end, correct?
right.
On the east elevation? Okay.
Any other questions? Well, as long as you're up there, why don't you, is there anything else you folks would like to add to the presentation from
Well-
Mr. Kroll?
Silverstar has been around since 2010, and they're from Sioux Falls, and they have 14 facilities in Sioux Falls right now, car washes that they have operating. They also have sites in Iowa now, they've expanded into Iowa, into Wisconsin, into Minnesota. We also have a couple sites that we're pursuing in Nebraska. They made the decision about a year ago that they want to come to the metro area and build their car washes. Our first car wash that we have, we actually are having a pre-con next week down in Inver Grove Heights, so that'll be the first one that they put in Minnesota. This would be the first one that we have in the North Metro. We also have sites in Blaine and White Bear Lake that we're looking at right now, and Anoka that we're pretty far along on all those other three. But we're further along on this site in Coon Rapids. You know, I asked the guys, Dan and Brian are the owners here, and I said, how many car washes can you have, you know, in the city? And they said, well, however many you can fit on the corners. So what they do is it's customer service, really Silverstar's customer service, that they want to provide a good product to people, make it easy for them to use and convenient, and then it's they'll come back if they're treated well, if they get a good wash and it's easy to do it. Customer will come back and they'll drive by all the other ones and come to you if they're treated fairly and it's easy for them to use and they get a good product. So that's really what they push for.
All right, thank you.
Chair Schwartz.
Commissioner Knobloch.
Engineer, you're both design engineers or architects?
Jerry's a design engineer, so he's done all the site design work, so
Okay.
any questions about that you can, and then I'm just the office manager and.
Okay. Well, I have two questions.
Sure.
That are applicable to you, both. The first question I have is, on the west side is the empty space that is like for future development or design and stuff. That empty space will be a future issue, but I'm going to ask now. That empty space, has the design of this had an impact on the future, what you plan to do with this, of subdividing it or developing it or whatever? Does your design have a play as to that empty space that's undeveloped right beside it?
Not really. The way it is, in another facility that we looked at, we were looking at putting a drive-through, a coffee shop there. Something that's probably on that order is what we're looking at for going in that space. And that's really a compatible use. And we'd only look at something that wasn't, that would really be a compatible use for really the traffic flow around the site, because we don't want it to be a problem. So we don't want something there that traffic flow would not, would compete with each other, with the car wash and whatever we put there. So we do look at that when we look at what would be compatible sitting next to us and a compatible use for that area.
Okay, thank you. I have a part B to that question.
Sure.
If you develop that lot, will there Will that access to that lot be a continuation of access to the car wash, or will there be a consideration of putting an entry exit onto Northdale, like onto the main street?
So I'm gonna let Jerry answer that one, since he would be the one designing that.
Yeah, the current design, it shows a drive aisle that's 24 feet in width that runs parallel with Northdale Boulevard. That's just south of our vacuum bays. So that's the access to that lot.
Okay.
And the car wash is building that access specifically for that traffic.
Excellent.
Yep.
Last question. Where would the bike rack go
You know,
for a car wash?
that's something that I've talked to Dakota about, and we'll have to figure that one out as we go.
Okay.
But
And-
we'll put it anywhere that would be convenient and efficient.
And will bikes be allowed to get a car wash?
I don't know. I don't think we can let them through the tunnel.
Yeah, safety. Okay, that's my two questions, so thank you.
Interesting story, though, the White Bear Lake one was a hog wash facility, so it was a facility that washed motorcycles. So we purchased that facility, we're not washing motorcycles there, so we're basically demoing the interior and retrofitting our car wash. And so it won't be any motorcycles anymore, but there was a facility that did bikes.
Excellent. And my last question is for Mr. Krull, the planner. Thank you. Mr. Krull, my final and last question is, I have a serious traffic flow concern because I'm very familiar with that intersection that is so shared between Burger King and Speedway and the old Mongolian bar, grill, thank you, that's now looking to be the development for the car wash. Could you explain the loop detector, if that's going to solve my concerns as the safety? Because I find that intersection extremely dangerous, and with increased traffic and flow and the development in front of the Coon Rapids High School, I think it's only going to get more dangerous and risky.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I mean, I shared a similar concern, which is why I think I asked the applicant to at least provide some trip generation data and tried to work with Anoka County since they manage that signal there. I too thought maybe there could be some concerns around traffic kind of queuing as they're waiting for the light. The Anoka County highway staff didn't share that concern when I provided the trip generation data, and they felt that having the loop detector on this access road would help. I'm not a traffic engineer, so I don't know the whole part behind it, but I think the idea is like it's like a metal detector, and it picks up when the car drives over to signal to the traffic signal that there's a car there waiting or pass through, to help with the timing of that. And I think it'll just help Anoka County at least kind of track that signal kind of moving forward. But they didn't share any immediate concern with traffic on that site, and I don't think they would be in favor of adding a new driveway on Northdale as well, just given, I think, kind of the frequency of driveways on that roadway.
Thank you, Mr. Krull. I have a part B to that too now, but is there any concern or consideration of talking to Coon Rapids Police and getting data from us? Because I would be shocked or surprised that there hasn't been an increase of fender benders and accidents at that intersection within the last 3 years of all the development that's gone on in that intersection on Northdale. Every day I drive by there a few times, and I always see things going on or people recovering from an accident or engaging in accidents. So that's maybe more of a comment than a question, but just for consideration of safety issues, to pursue that maybe from Coon Rapids Police for statistics, if they have any if that might be a future or a current concern.
Okay,
So,
okay. Yeah.
more of a comment, I guess.
Okay.
That's it?
Mr. Chair, if I
Mr. Bucciccone.
may, this did not meet the criteria for a traffic study, so we did not have that conducted. There's certain criteria that must be met. It didn't meet those. But the anecdotal information, I'm sure PD has that available.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Geisler.
Mr. Kroll, just since we didn't touch on it, all the wall signage, the entry, exit, Silverstar, et cetera, that's all part of the sign permit application process as well, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, since there's kind of two signs on each side and there's a lot of labeling.
Yeah, I tried to at least outline in the staff report kind of generally in that community commercial zoning district what would be allowed there, and I believe they would be allowed by right to have signage on two walls, with that coverage being either 80 square feet or 10% of the wall face to a maximum of 200 square feet. So I think they would have, yeah, the Silverstar kind of signage on the entrance and exit, and I think the signage on the kiosk, we would probably more consider part of kind of wayfinding, and when it meets certain limits, don't necessarily need a permit, but we just kind of look at that. Yeah.
Okay. And then the second question I had, the trash enclosure, since it's kind of its own thing, it's not fully rendered here. Is that just cinder block? Or we typically try to seek something that's at least matching the building aesthetic to some extent, usually the colored cap, kind of a mini version of the building, if you will.
Yeah, I'm not recalling the trash enclosure materials off the top of my head. I don't know, Jerry, if you recall, for that trash enclosure, the materials that were proposed.
I don't recall, but I think they'd be more than willing to do whatever you need to do.
Okay.
Or we require, they're willing
Okay.
to acquiesce.
Would we need that as an additional condition, or can staff work through that?
I think staff can work through that. Yeah. I know when I had looked at it, I didn't flag it that it was not compliant. I believe, at least from a color standpoint, and I think some of the smooth paneling is being used on the trash enclosure.
Yeah, we've just sought to have the design match,
Yep,
is all we've
yep.
done, and it's on its own, and it's very visible as you drive up, so.
Yeah, yep. I will
Thank you.
make sure to make a note of that.
And Mr. Kroll, a question I have concerning the vacant lot, for lack of a better term. There's mention about having it hydro-seeded. Do we need to have any kind of a condition to cover maintenance of that field pending development?
I'm not sure if we would need that. I tried to keep the condition broad enough that, just kind of working with the applicant, whatever kind of temporary erosion control measures might be needed. I think, we're just wanting to make sure it's not left as a big dirt patch and then, wind and water and things are kind of eroding that site. And so we're just, it didn't kind of list any specifics, but more just a general kind of condition working with staff to kind of just figure that out.
Mr. Chair, our existing code would be the mechanism that would require that they have to provide some kind of cover and then maintain it. So I think we don't need to add a condition. I think that would suffice.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, Commissioner, any other questions before we have a public hearing?
So can I ask one more about
Commissioner,
that, the vacant lot? Now, you said, not specifically, but generally that they would be required to maintain it. Now, that, where the Mongolian Grill was, that area has been vacant for how many years? And how quickly do you anticipate, or is anybody able to anticipate that that property might be developed? The western part? If it sits there for years.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Heikla, I don't know. And I think the applicant addressed that they don't know the exact timing of it. I think from staff's perspective, we're comfortable with the conditions that we're recommending this evening as it relates to, maintenance of that vacant lot. I think there are tools in our property maintenance, code enforcement toolbox that we could use if it is not well-maintained. So I don't think we need to add any kind of extra conditions as it relates to that, and we can't compel or require development on a certain time frame.
Any other questions? All right, we will then open a public hearing in planning case 22-24, the site plan for Silverstar Car Wash at 2085 Northdale Boulevard. Anyone wish to speak at the public hearing? Please come to the microphone, give your name and address for the record. And, excuse me, limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Jill Bornis. I live at 13026 Bluebird Street in Coon Rapids. I have 2 of my 3 children attend Coon Rapids High School, and that's part of one of the reasons why I'm here today. When I saw that the development, I'm here to talk about this, so when I saw the development of another car wash, me and everybody I know went, another car wash? Are you serious? So we were just concerned about the need for another car wash in our community with the new blue and green one north, and then the Holiday, and then also the new car dealerships. I'm assuming the new car dealership will have one along with the Honda dealership as well. It seems like an excessive amount of car washes for the area. My second sort of concern is traffic. I appreciate Commissioner Knobloch's addressing that this Northdale is crazy with all the time, and it's very unsafe. Someone almost, down further by the high school, I think that the school will be addressing the actual, changing the entrance and where the crossing is. I believe that's a project I read about somewhere. So that's good to know, but I'm very concerned about the extra traffic on that street that this car wash would bring. I don't know when people, I kind of read in the notes, they anticipate people mostly using it on Saturdays and maybe in the evening, but I don't know. I would imagine that a lot of people drive by it when they're going to the highway more in the mornings, and I'm concerned about extra traffic and more cars hanging out in that area. The third concern I have is just related to number 1 is why do we need a car wash? But I feel like that because it's on a transit line, like it's on a road where there's mass transit, I'm just wondering why we're putting something that uses cars, that serves cars there, instead of more something that serves people that come through that neighborhood on mass transit. That, there's groceries there, there's, a lot of other things, and I'm just wondering why there couldn't be a better use for that, for the people that use the mass transit. That's kind of a hub right there where people get on and off. Also, I'm worried about the safety of people crossing the streets in there with a great deal more cars. So I appreciate all of your thoughtful work on this. I just ask you to maybe please consider that a little bit more before you vote to approve this. No offense to the car wash people, but we just have a lot, and I think maybe we could do something better with that area. So thanks for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak at the public hearing? Last call. Anyone wish to speak? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing and limit comments to the commission.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Schmokey.
Actually, my question is to Mr. Ciccone. Can you explain to people what the conditions are for when a traffic survey would be warranted? I guess it is surprising. I'm surprised too that one wasn't needed for this area. It does seem like a busy area, so it might be helpful.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I am not familiar with the criteria, but I know there is a criteria that triggers that event. It didn't happen here. It was reviewed by the Highway Department folks. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I also believe our engineering staff looked at this as well. And I don't know that they had specific concerns about, or, traffic in general. If I can just address the comment about the number of car washes, because we do get this question asked about car washes and other things. And I think the commission is aware of this, but maybe for just the public's benefit. So, the city zones properties, and it includes a bucket of different kinds of uses, and in this case, in this particular zoning district, car washes are a permitted use. We don't cap or limit, the types of businesses. We generally accept that, from a zoning standpoint, if we're comfortable with certain uses, the market will largely dictate how many of those there can be within a reasonable distance or location. So if they're not successful, I would imagine they either need to change their business model or they eventually get repurposed into something else, much like the car wash in White Bear Lake that's been repurposed into a different use. So I think we understand, the questions about it, but from a zoning standpoint, it is a permitted use.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Casey.
just commenting on the traffic situation, it kind of reassures me that Anoka County, who has governance over that traffic signal, has weighed in, and maybe in lieu of a traffic study, we have to go with their recommendation, or they see fit that it will handle the traffic. That kind of reassures me a bit, that the flow can be accommodated. I'll just say that in defense of the traffic issues that they've weighed in. Thank you.
And the comment I would make would simply be, I think a car wash probably generates less traffic than a restaurant, which we had been in there before, would generate. At least that's my thoughts. Anyone else?
Chair Schwartz.
Commissioner Knobloch.
I have to make the comment that from personal experience and knowing this area relatively well, I have a lot of concerns with safety. I've mentioned that already, but that's from factual firsthand experience on my part, anecdotal. But, secondly, I would prefer to see hard numbers, statistics, and facts from Coon Rapids Police incident report in regards to this area, because I think if you look over a 3 to 5 year trend, I would bet $1 or more that there has been a trended increase and there has been development, and I have really concern. I'm all for the car wash, but I have a serious concerns about the safety of this issue. And I just don't feel right about it without speaking my mind about it. So that's all I have to say about that.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Bradley.
Well, I'm certainly all for safety, but I think we have to stay within our lane. The city isn't responsible for the traffic in that area. The county is, they've weighed in. They seem to believe that this is adequate for the area. We have to recognize there are limits to our authority and the things we can do. And we're here to determine whether this meets, the zoning, whether they meet the requirements. And it appears, based on what the staff has suggested with, a few minor conditions, that this thing is a permissible use, and that there are limits on what we can deny based on that. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Geisler.
I'll dovetail off of that and say this is a 4-lane divided county road that's signalized intersection. That's about as controlled as it gets in traffic. It's a high volume road. Yes, that's why it's 4 lanes and that's why it's a divided roadway. you know, I agree that there's a lot of traffic that will flow through there for a bunch of reasons. We've got the grocery store near there, we've got the other services near there. Gas stations drive a lot of trips too. So I don't find it surprising that anecdotally we see a whole lot of activity there because there's a whole lot of reason to go to that commercial center as we've designed it. The thing that I think that mitigates a lot of this, for this specific consideration, there isn't a through way. This is a dead-end entrance. It doesn't go anywhere. You're not driving through. You have to drive through the Speedway to get to the other place, or the Burger King to get to the Speedway, to get to the, the office site down the way adjacent to this property. But here, you either are coming to the car wash or you're not. And so I don't see a whole lot of through steps that are gonna generate a whole bunch of extra. It's gonna be someone's already in the area and chooses to go through it. There might be some additional destination pieces there, but we don't have a big flow through to try to get to other areas. Maybe when this adjacent site is developed, there might be a little bit more traffic flow through there. But again, they've already accommodated that with that service road that's parallel to that frontage road and not taking that off of Northdale, which is gonna provide additional safety. And they've provided a really nice, clean flow here, better than a lot of the other sites we've worked on in the last year or two. So as much as there's a concern, it's a 4-lane major road of what Northdale is. It's a county road. The county has expressed a desire for a loop detector to make sure that it stays safe and to do what they can to maintain and manage that. I agree with Commissioner Bradley that that condition is the extent at which we can manage the traffic with what we have in front of us today.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Eichler.
I agree with both Commissioner Bradley and Commissioner Geisler about the traffic situation. I will say this morning that it came out of the Cub store and waited to make a right turn to go on Northdale. A car was coming and the person turned on their blinker to turn about 5 feet before they got to the point where they were going to turn. So I thought, what the are you doing? And so there is some, not that we can do anything about it, but there's the situation or the concern about the safety is valid. And the gentleman who commented on possibly a car wash on every corner, well, that's certainly true. You can, if you own the property, you can build what you want. But I do think we're getting to the point where we do have a sufficient number of car washes. Just a general comment. Not enough that I would vote against it, but.
Thank you. Any other comments or is someone ready for a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Geisler.
I'll make a motion that in planning case 2224 that we approve the proposed site plan with the 9 listed conditions in our packet.
Second.
Motion by Geisler, second by Schmolke. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes with Commissioner Knobloch opposed. This is a decision by the Planning Commission and can be appealed to the City Council within 10 business days if someone so chooses. Thank you and good luck. Our next case is Planning Case 22-23, a conditional use permit at 3050 Coon Rapids Boulevard LLC and JP Complete Auto Repair LLC. Mr. Kroll.
Just wanted to make sure I didn't lose my plans from the last case. So, yeah, the second case that we have tonight is planning case 22-23, and here the applicant is requesting approval of a conditional use permit for a minor auto repair business. So this conditional use is at 3050 Coon Rapids Boulevard. The current zoning is in our Port Campus Square zoning district and also in our River Rapids overlay district. The future land use designation is commercial mixed use. The applicant would be operating a minor auto repair business and provide services that include oil changes, timing belt changes, suspension repairs, brake repairs, rotor repairs, and water pump repairs. The applicant has indicated there'd be a total of 3 employees and average about 10 customers a day, with hours of operation proposed from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday. I just wanted to maybe give some clarification around auto repair in both the Port and River Rapids overlay districts, just to provide some guidance as to why this was brought forward today. So based on the narrative that was provided by the applicant, we felt the services were considered minor auto repair. Minor auto repair is a conditional use in the Port District. Section 11-201 of our zoning code defines minor auto repair as the replacement of any part or repair of any part that does not require removal of the engine head or pan, engine transmission or differential, incidental body and fender work, minor painting and upholstery service. I will note that auto salvage is different and is not a permitted use in the Port District, and that major motor vehicle body work or spray painting are a prohibited use in the Port District as well as the River Rapids Overlay District. And so you'll see this condition as part of the approval that this conditional use permit is issued for minor auto repair in Suite 115, and that auto salvage, major body work, and spray painting and the removal, rebuilding, or reconditioning of engines or transmissions are not permitted and not allowed. As you all are probably well aware, that this was a former site that was a kind of boat showroom, and has since kind of been subdivided into a number of different tenant spaces. Just wanted to provide what we understand to be the current uses in that space. And so there are 2 liquidation retail businesses, Chang Wholesale in Suite 110 and K-Bid in Suite 120. There is a gutter contractor office warehouse in Suite 114, the Coon Rapids Tobacco and Vape Shop in Suite 122, a party supply store in Suite 118, and then Citywide Auto Detail in Suite 116. And so here, this application is focused on Suite 115, and it's about a 4,232 square foot space, again, in this multi-tenant commercial building. And here's just a kind of a site plan overview of the building, just kind of taking some of the text away if it's a little easier to read. Again, just highlighting we're focusing on Suite 115. This was a floor plan that was provided by the applicant. So you'll see that there is the main kind of customer entrance is actually on the east side of the building. It opens into a vestibule and kind of reception area. And then the service entrance to the building is actually on the west side of the building. So kind of showing here where that garage overhead door, where the vehicles being serviced would enter. They do show 3 vehicle lifts and kind of showed an outline of where cars would be stored and parts. I will note that on a site visit with the property owner and city staff on October 17th, 2022, it did reveal that there were 4 car lifts in the space, and that the intention was that all 4 of them were going to stay. So knowing that, I did request an updated site plan from the property owner. So they provided this plan just kind of showing where there are actually 4 vehicle lifts, kind of showing the outline of the space there. I guess with this application, I guess I'll note that the improvements associated with this proposed tenant include interior modifications to the suite. The plan that they provided show that a hazardous waste trap separator would be provided in this space. There are currently no improvements proposed that would impact the exterior of the building or any improvements to the exterior site at 3050. There are currently 2 active conditional use permits for Suite 116, the citywide auto detail, and then NJR gutters in Suite 114. And there are a number of conditions tied to those CUPs that addressed a lot of the site-wide improvements. And as we kind of learned from previous meetings, I think in September, that staff had determined that those conditions were met. And so we felt like those kind of site-wide improvements, this tenant would benefit from those site-wide improvements and aren't indicating any additional site-wide improvements with the application. As I'm sure you are aware, that there was a conditional use permit for an auto repair business that was issued in January of 2021 for Fridley Auto Repair. Kind of just giving some history of that site, that the city had never received a certificate of occupancy or a building permit application for an auto repair business in that space. City Auto Repair relocated and did not complete a CO, and then another auto repair business, Lund's Auto, had moved in. Staff had observed auto dismantling and auto salvaging operating in that space, which, as I indicated earlier, is not a permitted use in the Port District. And so the CUP was revoked in June of this year, kind of due to a number of conditions on the CUP not being completed, the fact that an auto salvaging business is not a permitted use, and that the business was illicitly discharging petroleum products in the city sanitary sewer system, hence kind of the need for a flammable waste trap separator in this space. So I think through these processes, with previous tenants in the space, staff have discovered several building code issues that need to be addressed in order to accommodate an automotive use in Suite 115, knowing that the space was never initially intended for auto use, and kind of that change of occupancy in a space, regardless if they needed a CUP or not, would require and kind of trigger building improvements to help with any kind of new occupancy in a space. And so issues are related to the ventilation and air handling, plumbing, electrical systems. Again, as I mentioned, that hazardous waste separator. There could also be some structural issues with a makeshift mezzanine area that is in the space. And the property owner or the applicant have not submitted any formal building improvement plans, nor have applied for any building permits with the city. So kind of given these known building code issues, staff is recommending that this CUP be tied more directly to those building code improvements, just to ensure that the business in the space is not a detriment to the public health and safety to those who occupy the space or to the general welfare of the neighboring properties. So in this case, staff would also recommend that this work be completed within 6 months of CUP approval, and that occupancy of the space could not occur until work is successfully done in that space. So like the previous case, I just want to kind of go through a couple of the conditional use standards and just kind of flag some that have conditions that would need to be addressed. So first, the conditional use shall not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or general welfare. As mentioned, there are known building code requirements within the proposed space that, if not resolved, would cause harm to public health and safety to those who occupy the space and the general welfare of neighboring properties. And so as a condition to help remedy this, building code issues related to ventilation, air handling, plumbing, and electrical systems, as well as the structural issues of the mezzanine, would be resolved before a certificate of occupancy is issued and the applicant occupies Suite 115. I will note that this is just part of the city process and not something really additional that we're requiring. It's more just to outline what the process is so that everyone's on the same page around next steps that have to happen in the space. So again, here is just the plan that was provided by the applicant, kind of showing the hazardous waste separator, but did not have any plans showing improvements to the electrical work, plumbing, or the makeshift mezzanine. The second standard I'll just highlight is that the conditional use shall generate only minimal vehicle traffic on local streets and not create traffic congestion, unsafe access, or parking needs that cause inconvenience. And so kind of based in our city code, parking and loading areas must be striped and designated to park vehicles in an orderly pattern, and that vehicles parked outside of striped areas or vehicles double parked in a parking stall that's designed for one vehicle could create unsafe access and inconvenient parking. As I noted, the vehicle access to the site is on the west side of the building and actually requires currently that vehicles drive onto the neighboring property at 3060 Coon Rapids Boulevard to access that site. So to help address some of these concerns, We have outlined some conditions around, again, here to promote safe and efficient movement on site. Vehicles parked outside should be in striped stalls and not be double parked. And that the property owner maintain reciprocal easement agreement with 3060 Coon Rapids Boulevard, or develop another alternative to ensure that there's adequate and safe access to the site, to the public street. This was a comprehensive parking plan that was provided by the applicant to kind of show site-wide. I recognize it's probably a little difficult to see on the screen here, so I'll kind of walk through it a little bit. Kind of broken down, the different colors represent the different suites, and then I have a table here that I'll kind of go through that to help interpret that drawing if it's a little hard to read. I'll note there you'll see kind of 3 X's in the area that was designated as parking for Suite 115. There is an existing kind of overhead door as well as some like an old air conditioning unit that takes up that space, and so staff felt like that space isn't really can accommodate a vehicle and shouldn't be counted in the parking. And then there are 2 spaces here, and the driving aisle between does not actually meet our minimum standard for a driving aisle in a parking lot and could cause circulation issues and inconvenient parking if someone were to try to access those 2 spaces. So kind of taking those out of the equation, the applicant still has shown 14 parking spaces for Suite 115 on site, and our code would require 12 parking spaces. So they do meet the minimum parking as they show in this plan. Kind of just going through, again, some of the existing businesses that I had mentioned, tried to go through what our minimum parking standard would be on the site. I think given the current uses in the space, our code would say that there should be at least 83 parking spaces to accommodate, and based on the plan that they've provided, they're showing that they have 89 spaces on site. So again, showing that they do have enough parking on the site, but again, we just want to make it clear that the parking should occur in striped and designated spaces on the site. And then the last condition I'll highlight is that the conditional use shall cause only minimal adverse environmental effects. And so I think kind of given some of the known code improvements and past history with tenants, that the proper handling of oil, vehicle fluids, and car parts would ensure that the proposed use would not cause adverse environmental effects. So here, those conditions, again, around building code issues would have to be resolved before the CO is issued and the applicant occupies Suite 115 to address that. So here in planning case 22-23, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission approve the proposed conditional use permit with those 6 conditions listed. I'm happy to help answer any questions, and I believe the applicant and the property owner are also both here to help answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Kroll. Commissioner, any questions for Mr. Kroll?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Geisler.
Mr. Kroll, you mentioned in the write-up and in your discussion that staff is seeking that this be done within 6 months of approval. I noticed that there isn't a timeline on here. Do we need to add a 7th condition that all building code violations within the property be addressed within 6 months? Just to align with what staff is asking for, or does staff feel comfortable that the prohibitions in 2 and 3 cover enough of an aggressive timeline?
Yeah, I guess from the conditions that I had listed, I felt like just being really clear that, before a CO is issued and before the applicant could occupy the space, that the building improvements would need to be made, and that's just following our process regardless if a business needed a conditional use permit or not. Given the change of occupancy, that's just the process that we have in our code and at our discretion. So I kind of felt like that addressed it enough, but if the commission feels another way.
Chair and Commissioner, Commissioner Geisler. Mr. Chair.
Mr. Lucciaconi.
This was a deliberative process, I'll say that. This whole thing has been gone over several times by staff. We were hesitant to attach a timeline because unexpected things can occur, but I think through 2 and 3, we've expressed sufficient conditions that our conditions will be complied with.
And I only asked based on staff's request
Yeah.
that it be there, so I just wanted to make sure we weren't missing anything. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks.
Commissioner Bradley?
Mr. Kutchka, if we had put a timeline in there too, then it kind of becomes a self-canceling CUP, which isn't really part of the process that can be followed here, right?
Correct, and it's important to remember, there is a timeline here of 12 months for this CUP to be taken advantage of.
Chair Schultz.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Knobloch?
The question I have for Mr. Kroll is, one question is, as I really like that the planning department and the city have made the concerted effort to address the issues with this property. So it's not more for the applicant, it's more for the property owner. The only question I have is, have some of the issues that we've had brought before us and have addressed in regards to this property been addressed or taken care of? Like the barbed wire on the fences, some of the hazardous materials previously that used to be there. I just want to know, has that been worked on or addressed so far?
Yeah, kind of those two CUPs that are existing on site, the NGR gutters and the citywide auto detail. They had a number of those site conditions, so the barbed wire was addressed. If you'll recall, I think back in September and October, we had brought forward a potential revocation of those CUPs because we had noticed that the landscaping, the parking lot striping, and the trash enclosure had yet to be completed. Those have now since been in compliance, and staff feel like with the existing conditional use permits that are at this location, all of those conditions have been met.
Excellent. I just want to commend planning and city and legal I know it's a lengthy process, but getting the results over time and just working with property owners and applicants, it's showing benefit here. So thank you for following through.
Mr. Chair.
I thought Commissioner Heikela?
Yeah, I'm a little unclear yet. It says, in this case, staff recommends these improvements be completed within 6 months of the CUP approval. Occupancy of the space could not occur before this work is successfully done. Therefore, no business could be conducted in this site until all of these things are done.
Yeah, I guess how I'm defining occupancy, the business wouldn't be able to operate until those building improvements are made, but obviously if they're in there to make those improvements and getting the space set up, they can do that, but they wouldn't be able to kind of open and operate their business until a CO is issued.
Thank you.
Commissioner Casey?
Yeah, I wanted to add also, I'll chime in. I'm appreciative, this has been a property we're all familiar with the last year and a half or whatever, but it was on the verge of becoming a problem, and I'd like to compliment the city staff for they listened up and they took steps to provide the proper oversight. And I'd also like to thank the property owner and the tenants that have been in and out of that property for their efforts to become compliant and provide a real good working relationship. So this property can move forward, so to speak. And I feel like it's being improved every time we revisit it now. And kudos to the city staff and the citizens and property owners that work with them. So thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Heikela?
I will just add to what Commissioner Casey said. I fully support small businesses, and this building has a number of small businesses, and the fact that they can work with us, we can work with them to keep them in business is good business.
Mr. Kroll, could you go into a little depth? What exactly are the structural issues of the mezzanine?
Yeah, so when I did that site visit with our chief building official, he had just shared some concern that he's just not sure the structural integrity of the mezzanine that was there. I believe that was something that was added in by previous tenants and didn't really show up on building plans. But we haven't done any kind of formal review, and because there haven't been building permits applied for, any kind of detailed building improvement plans submitted. I know working with our chief building official, it's hard to kind of pinpoint the exact things because we just haven't been given the information of the kind of improvement plans, but just kind of our walkthrough, he just noted that that is something he would want more information on. There's, just given it's kind of an add-on thing from the tenant and never really got approved by the building department.
Could you show on the floor plan of some sort, the area that you're talking about?
Yeah, and I'm trying to recall from the site visit I had. I believe it's kind of where this staircase is shown. There is this kind of open area above the offices. It might be something the property owner could probably speak to a little bit as well, because we did walk through that space together. But I know it's kind of up and over, kind of like a half-level mezzanine above the offices here on the kind of left-hand side of the site.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Casey?
So, this is all within site, or suite 115.
Yep.
And so the staircase to where? Are you saying it goes up a half flight? Or?
Yeah, it's kind of like just a big open area that sits on top of the offices there. So it's kind of
A loft?
walled off, yeah, like a loft
okay.
area there that's just kind of open.
And that might not be structurally sound.
That is correct, yeah. Our chief building official had indicated like that wasn't ever approved by the building department and weren't aware that that was in the space until we went to go do the site visit, and just would like more information on that kind of moving forward.
Thank you.
Is there anything the petitioner and our property owner would like to add?
Not really. Or, you could maybe ask us some questions, first question, but.
Do you have any knowledge on this mezzanine issue?
Oh, yeah.
And again, give your name and address for the record, please.
Hello, my name is Rustam Mukharamov, and my address is 7208 Trillium Lane, Edina, Minnesota, 55435.
And maybe spell your name for the secretary, please.
Sure, it's Rustam, and then the last name is Muharamov, as in Victor.
Thank you.
Yes. So, as far as the mezzanine, I think it was built, I don't know, maybe like 20 years ago or something. When we bought the building, it was already there. And I think it's pretty sound. I actually brought a structural engineer, and he looked at it, and he's licensed. He's gonna give us some sort of a written statement that it can support this many pounds per inch or whatever, or per foot. And he's gonna give me that paper probably within a week. But I think when they built it, they used regular framing, but also for the structure, they used the metal racking for like pallets in some places, in like a couple places. But everything else was like built with wood. So that's why when Rod saw it, he was like, we just want to make sure that this thing is not going to collapse and hurt people or whatnot. But yeah, but it's been there for more than 20 years, and we are having a structural engineer look at it and give us his okay that it'll support, and it can support this much weight, and so it'll be sound.
All right.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Heikkila?
is that mezzanine, or is that actually used for storage right now?
No. It's basically, there's the office space, and on top of it, there's just some, maybe some lighter stuff, like some, I don't know, like some light parts, like plastic and random stuff. But it's not, there's no heavy stuff on it or anything like that.
There's no office desks or anything
No,
up
no,
there
no.
It's
It's
not
just-
office space, it's
Yeah.
storage.
Underneath, like on the main floor, there's some offices, but on the second floor, there's nothing like that, no. Yeah, like they had like a tire or two, and they had like a fender or some like light stuff, that they would just store up there. Yeah. All right.
Thank you. And there's nothing the petitioner would like to add? Okay. No other questions from commission at this time? All right, we need a public hearing, so I will open a public hearing in planning case 22-23 for a conditional use permit at 3050 Coon Rapids Boulevard, JP Auto, Complete Auto Repair LLC. Anyone wish to speak to this public hearing? Anyone wish to speak? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and limit comments just to the commission.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Geisler.
you know, I appreciate having the parking plan. That's something we've asked for. It's nice to see. I'm a little concerned that 118 says it's not compliant with our parking minimum, and it's in our packet, saying that it's minimum of 8 and it's 4 on there. Obviously, there's some slack slots that can be adjusted to meet that. But I do have concerns that effectively that leaves 117 and 119, which are currently vacant and require no parking, almost, there's nothing else to put in there unless they require 1 or 2 slots total. So I think my concern is, you know, we can continue to CUP this site, and as it stands today, it's totally fine, but at some point, there's gonna be vacancies because we run out of parking for the site, unless the intensity of the various applicants changes, and it ostensibly goes down. That said, I agree with some of the other commissioners' statements about improving the site. The site has been improved every time it's come in front of us. That's good. I'm glad to see that they're working with what we're doing. You know, I know staff will do their best to make sure that we don't have a recurrence of the disposal issues we saw on that side. I don't think anybody wanted to see that, so I'm hopeful that we'll keep a good firm eye on getting that all done. But yeah, I appreciate all the work that everyone's been doing on this site to make it be productive and compliant for everybody's sake.
Chair Schwartz?
Commissioner Knobloch.
If no other commissioners or chair have any further comments, I'd like to make a motion.
All right.
I make motion in recommendation in planning case 22-23, Planning Commission approve the proposed conditional use permit with the following conditions as listed 1 through 6. Unless you'd like me to read them.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and by Knobloch and a second by Schmolke. Do we have any further discussion? I guess I would just make a comment referencing some of what Commissioner Geisler mentioned, that with this conditional use permit, it appears all existing parking spaces have been utilized. So I would have to think that if we had any further applications for the 2 existing property areas, there'd be no way we'd be able to approve them because there's no parking available for them. Not at this time, I'm sorry. Any other comments from commission? All right, having the motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? And the motion passes. This is a decision by the planning commission and can be appealed to the city council within 10 business days if someone so chooses. Thank you and good luck. All right, moving on to other business.
Yeah, so for the December Planning Commission agenda, we do have a conditional use permit application for a new water tower for the city, as well as a conditional use permit for 3050 in one of those spaces. So that'll, the parking, as you mentioned, will be something to look at and talk about there. And then we have a lot split proposal between a local property owner and the Anoka County Crooked Lake Library. Kind of a, just a small little sliver lot split in joining to adjust a property line there.
All right, thank you. And Commission, anyone have anything for other business?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion by Schmolke, second by Geisler. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting's adjourned.